Yes.
Where are you from? Where you grad? And what was it like growing up?
So I am from the Big Island. Well, I'm from Big Island and Oahu, but I was born Kealakekua, lived Keaukaha a little while, and then we moved to the mainland for a little bit, and then when we came back to Oahu, and I was probably I think seventh grade when
Mm-hmm.
we came here. We hopped around schools, Mililani School District. We was in Kalihi a little while, Papakolea, because that's where my tutu had her land. And so I made it to 10th grade and I was a decent student, but we had a lot of stuff going on in our life, and my mom was under a lot of pressure at the time. And what I realized was there was no college in the cards for me. Like there was like that wasn't happening, you know. And even for me, like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so because I was smart at that time, because I'm pretty old now,
Mm-hmm.
what you had to do was to get your GED at that age, because I was 16. So I decided, well, if I join the military, it will get me out of Hawaii. I can see somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
and it'll pay for school. And so I went to my parents, talked to them. Basically, what happened was is I had to go adult schools program to pass this test that showed you could pass more than the GED because I was too young to take it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got to take my GED. And so I took my GED, and then what would have been my junior year of high school, I left for boot camp.
Oh, okay.
So I was
You didn't have to be
17.
18?
No, back I don't know if they changed it, but when I went in, you could sign into the DEP program, which is the delayed entry program,
Oh, okay.
at 16, and then you could leave right at 17. So
Oh.
I left the February after 9/11 happened to go boot camp.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What did that motivate? Did nine
No,
eleven
not at
motivate?
all. It
Okay, it's
was
just
I
coincidence.
was so young, I
Oh, okay.
didn't like it like this is how, Lolo I was and young-minded is like when I went to boot camp, it had already happened, and in my brain, I'm like not even making the connection yet, you know? And I didn't like even like in one of our trainings, at one point they were like, you know, half of you guys raise your hand, blah blah blah. That's about the amount of you that are going to be gone by this time next year, because this is before the first invasion of Fallujah, and that didn't even like sink it for me.
Gone
We
as in like
dead,
dead.
make, yeah. And
Oh,
so in my mind, that still doesn't even sink in for me because I'm so young.
yeah.
And it wasn't even until we were on the ground for OIF 1 and we were pushing from Baghdad into Fallujah, and I just see all the chopper tracer rounds. There's the A-10s are doing flybys, the guns are all going off, and we're heading towards that from Baghdad, coming from Baghdad. And that was when it clicked for me. It's like, the sun was setting. It was right after the prayer call, which anybody that's been in country knows, like when the prayer call goes, you hear it everywhere. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, growing up in the West, anybody that's experienced knows, like if you grew up in anywhere in the West, that experience is so rattling the first time you experience it, because it doesn't matter. You could have grown up in the worst hood ever in the world here, and it is leagues better than over there. So that first experience, that's when it clicked. It was like that moment. I'll never forget that moment,
Mm,
because that was when it was like, oh snap, like this is what I'm doing, like this
yeah.
isn't. And but literally, like, people, because people always ask me that know me, and it's like, I know a lot of guys that had that. I built that while I was in there, that had that tenacity and that desire to do good for my brothers and exceed. But I didn't have that going in. Like I was just trying to get out of Hawaii and pay for college.
And did you purposefully sign up for the front lines, like
No, it
the
wasn't.
Marines?
It wasn't purposeful at all. It was literally just like, I remember what it was like. I I did pretty good on my ASVAB, and I could have done a bunch of other things, but anybody knows that recruiters are kind of shady. And so essentially, I saw a poster of a dude all geared up in there, and I was like, I want to do that.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, 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 yeah. Come on. Easy entry, like get you in here. And then my younger brother signed up with me and left a year after me. So he
Mhm.
became a Marine. I think it was like a little less than a year right after me.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't, again, it was one of those things where it was just to get out of here. And it wasn't like any like lack of respect for Hawaii, but to touch on the growing up thing. So um coming here, and my dad's side of the family is Hawaiian. So my tutu is full from Nihao. And we were very close to her. She helped my mom a lot with us, especially when me and my brother were younger. And so a ton of our interaction was with her.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this very amazing experience of this amazing, my tutu Jane is such a loving person. Anyone that knows her, she had 13 children of her own.
Oh.
Excuse me. Hana'd a bunch of others. We have all these connected families that she Hana'd. My tutu pops, I think, died when she was like 35, never remarried, died at 93, passed away in our home, in my parents' home. All her mo'opuna singing Hawaiian music around her. Whole sky of Makiki cracked open, thunder, nuts, bro.
Wow.
And so I had this experience with this beautiful human telling me who I was in my Kanaka-ness, for lack of a better term. And then as soon as you walk outside her house in Papakalea, stop howling. So it was a very interesting experience because like I felt super connected to Hawaii being Hawaiian, and I felt like it gave me a place, right? It gave me like this wayfinder, if you will, of our people. But then as soon as you step out into the society of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders, what does this experience look like? So, Paule,
Wow.
And that's what it was, like I don't look poly enough to be poly at that age group, So that was my experience. But the interesting thing that I'll say from that is it never made me bitter. Like I had to scrap plenty. I got into all kinds of stuff because so Paule, but it never made me bitter. Like I say all the time, like so much of what I got through, like everything I got through while I was in the Marine Corps was my ohana, God, and then I felt like I had Hawaii on my back. Like I'm sure a lot of people feel that, but like for me, deeply, personally, in everything I've ever done, from the military is where I felt like it really started onward. I have personally always felt like I got to represent for home. I got to represent for home. They got to see us, and I always felt like that. And it, like, as much of that as I experienced, of the not looking Hawaiian enough, not knowing enough, I'm about to touch 40 next week, right?
Wow.
So I am from the class, if you will, where there was almost zero available to us. There was no immersion school growing up in town. You know what I'm saying? My mom worked full time, her and my dad were going through stuff. We were moving around all the time. Like there was, where was I supposed to get immersed in our culture when, in between the multiple jobs that the family had to work, like my immersion was tutu.
Yeah.
And so what I got from her allowed me, it was beautiful enough that it allowed me to hang on to that, because I've met people that are bitter. They're mixed Hawaiians and they're bitter at Hawaiians and they're bitter at our culture and they're bitter at Hawaii. And I'm very grateful that I didn't have that experience,
That's interesting because it's like you had all this culture thrown at you, and then as soon as you, almost like your tutu's like saying, hey, you are Hawaiian enough, you're Kanaka, this is our history. And as soon as you go outside, you just got people saying you are not Hawaiian enough. In one of the most like rooted places on Oahu, like homestead kind of action.
Yeah. But that's where you stick out the most, though.
That is true. Yeah. You stick out like a sore thumb. But at a young age, I'm surprised it didn't affect you like mentally.
I mean, I'm sure it did more then, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I definitely can remember like being more affected then. I guess I'm just kind of giving like the net sum that like overall I made it out into the military with the mindset of like, I got to represent for Hawaii and being proud to be here. The first tattoo I ever got at 18 years old was the islands across my back, shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
with the big island all topographical. You know, like that was the
Yeah.
number one thing was like put it on my back.